Hi, my name is Alejandro Pérez, and this is the AI Coffee Podcast. Every week, you will have one disruptive aspect of technology and artificial intelligence for the time you drink a cup of coffee. Today, we are going to learn a lot about intellectual property, about law, but also about artificial intelligence with one of my friends, Neus. Neus is an expert of artificial intelligence applied for startups, for media, and I think we are going to learn all about that a lot. So, welcome, Neus. How are you?
Hello, Alejandro. Thank you for having me. How are you?
Fine, I'm fine. I'm really happy that you are here, and I guess that we are going to learn a lot about everything because you have a lot of experience about the startups, about AI. But first, before that, I usually want to make the audience know you better because, of course, I know you as we are friends. But the first thing I would like to you to explain a bit is why did you decide to study law, but also media and entertainment and all the intersections around?
Well, the reason for this is that I wanted to join my two passions. So I always wanted to be a lawyer. Well, a lawyer, it's not the word. I wanted to be a judge. But then I discovered my passion for counseling people that have problems, that have legal course of action. And then I have my passion for arts, for entertainment, for cinema, and also people that are all around me to have them as well. So this was a perfect way to join both worlds and to live my passions. So
It
and technology, it's yes.
No, no, no. I just wanted to say that you create films as well. So it's also very interesting that you are an special lawyer, that you are not only writing papers and do, let's say, boring stuff, or boring for me as at least, but also you create media, which is also really, really nice. So yeah, continue talking about that.
Yes, so it was always a passion of mine. So after a lot of effort, because both worlds are kind of difficult words, law and media. But it's true that with the right tools and the right mindset, I think you can do both. Sometimes it's hard. I'm not gonna lie, but I think it's worth it.
Yeah.
So
I guess it's very, let's say, weird, right? Like, not maybe a lot of of your colleagues know so well these two worlds, but I think it's also an advantage for you because you can give a lot of advices to media,
mm.
like developers or filmers or whatever, and it's also very practical, right?
Yeah, to advise on a field, I think the first thing is you have to understand the field. But before knowing the regulation, the law, you have to understand what's going on so you can advise exactly on what the client needs. Because a lot of times, a lot of lawyers or counsels will say, no, you can't do this because this it's not regulated like this, but they are not understanding what the client needs. So my approach on counseling, it's always like, what do you want to do? Let's see the way to do it legally and properly, but it's never like cutting your wings. No, it's let's see how we can do this. We're a team. We're
Hmm.
not against each other.
Hmm. No, it's pretty nice this approach, and also I want also for the audience to tell that you also work with startups, and it's also very relevant because innovation and startups are usually like stakeholders maybe not so good customers, let's say, for a lawyer firm, because usually startups founders usually want to do things quickly to make the MVP really quickly and go to the market, which of course this is very relevant, but on the other hand it's also very practical and very relevant to be compliant. So can you tell us a bit, maybe, like, before we start talking about AI and regulation, that we are going to talk a lot, I guess, but can you say maybe the main challenges or the main mistakes that you have encountered?
Well, for me, the startups, the bigger mistake they make is not having counsel before um, taking the journey to create this product, this service, because it's easier to be compliant from the beginning before you create whatever you want to sell than to do it afterwards. Because complying with all the regulations we have in general, doesn't matter if you're a startup or if you open a bar, it's easier to do it before. So the advice I would give is to have a lawyer or to work with a firm before releasing this product or before being at the end of the journey to releasing it.
Hmm. And how do you take care, let's say, take care of your customers in that sense? Because uh, I guess it's always like a compromise point, right, between doing everything with all the legal framework and doing everything perfectly and going quickly. So sometimes it's hard, right? Or how do you handle it?
Well, yes, it can be hard if the startup is not working towards this end, because maybe sometimes it's yes, a lot of paperwork, it's a lot of resources that go into being compliant. So for me, it's frustrating to see when this it's the client feels it more like an attack on like his company, that I cannot go further. No, it's not that. It's just like these three things you have to do, and then you can kind of forget. Don't forget it, but to be more relaxed. So it's just a bit of patience. It is not a step down or a slow down as it might seem. It's more like taking a step back so you can take a leap forward.
Hmm. Yes, I see the point. But you mentioned three important points. So maybe we can start the topic of the episode, which is AI regulation in companies, startups, and everything. So can we maybe start with that? Which are the three main things that a company needs to have in mind? Maybe the startup founding team or the C levels of a company need to have in mind whenever they want to implement AI.
When they want to implement AI, the most important thing is to understand how does your AI work, how are you going to source it, uh, in an intellectual property point of view, if it's an open source, if you have your own AI and you are training it yourself, or it's a mix of both of them. In case that it's a mix, or it's open source, or it's you buy a license from someone else, to have this contract signed and properly reviewed by a lawyer, because sometimes everybody is it's good friends until there's problems. So
Hmm.
that's very important to have everything on paper. And I have seen a lot of startups, and not only startups, a lot of enterprise that we were all friends, everything is fine, and then it's not, because something happens and we don't have anything signed. So now you call me and I have to do magic tricks. So it, it's not a complete disaster. So that's the most important thing. The first thing I will say: sign every contract, have be diligent, have everything stored in in your computer, in your filers, in your files, have everything, and then regulate all your contracts, even it's labor contracts, or it's partnership contracts, or it's license contracts. Everything, have everything, and know where everything is, and ideally have it reviewed by a lawyer. So, and AI, intellectual property, know what your license are, the data, know where your data come from. If it's intellectual property data, know if you have the rights. In Spain, you don't need the rights right now. In Europe, because it's an intern process. But if you do, it's interesting that you keep them tracked. If you don't know why you can use it, so if tomorrow someone asks by someone I mean public administration, judge, not a random person, you can prove that you were diligent, because in Spanish law and in European law normally, but I'm speaking more specifically in Spain, you have to you have to prove that you're diligent, that you did everything, because you're not invincible. You can be, for example, in data protection, you can be hacked. You have to prove that you were diligent enough, so you couldn't prevent this hacking from occurring. So yeah, AI and data protection, even intellectual property goes one way, that personal data goes another way. But personal data, it's a fundamental right. So European regulation is very strict. Spanish regulation is strict because it goes directly against fundamental rights. And then the regulation of European Union of data protection and the regulation of AI are very similar in form. They are very pioneer. They're very new, because the data protection regulation was indeed the first regulation so ambitious. I mean, it's like in the Lord of the Rings, a ring to rule them all. They wanted uh, to dissect all the the ways they can to make this law apply. So even if you are out of European Union, maybe this can apply you. So this goes as well with AI, and it makes sense because they have to go hand in hand, because AI is sourced by a lot of personal data.
Hmm.
So yes, so answer your question, know where your intellectual property lies, know where your data is coming from. If you have personal data, to comply with the UL regulation and with our ALOPD, the our law in Spain, that,
Hmm. Hmm.
and also with obviously the regulation of AI
Hmm.
that's now in motion.
So yeah, so a lot of things to take into consideration, I guess, and it might be not so easy to understand what to start with. So this is why maybe lawyers come into place, right? To maintain that and to really control that everything is doing correctly. But can you explain a bit about the AI regulation? Because the AI Act, the AI regulation in the European Union is something quite new. We are, just for the context, we are recording this in at the end of April 2025. This is something that, as far as I know, around 2 months ago, was starting to be into application, right? And little by little, it's going to be applied in different scenarios, different levels of risks. So, can you explain a bit the context about this law and how it applies?
Yeah, so this regulation, um, it's a regulation that, as always, goes behind of the real world. And in technology, sadly, that happens a lot. But with AI, generative AI, this has been very disruptive and like an explosive. It has been like a bomb in all of countries, because AI exists since years and years ago. Like the Turing test was passed in 2013. So imagine, and it goes far before this. So the thing is, AI. The thing is, the European Union was already in motion, in motion this regulation since 2020, I think it was. So they already were working on this, and then ChatGPT drops in, everybody goes crazy, and everybody starts using generative AI. So this regulation was not prepared at all for this. So in the course of regulating, that is, takes a lot of time, long years. They have to change courses, but they cannot do it entirely, because so it was difficult for them. That's why in the AI Act there's no intellectual property mentioned. There's a lot of things that are missing, that are going to come eventually. But what they focus was here was fundamental rights, because it
Hmm.
was the more urgent and pressing matter. And as we all know, the European Union has a very conservative take on fundamental rights, like
Hmm.
to defend them. Some watch it as conservative, as watch it as normal, but that depends on the point of view.
depends on of you are thinking about citizens or you are thinking about the companies working with this dealing with the regulation, right? Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people complain, but then when your data is secured or you have these consumer rights, you don't complain as much. So
Mm.
it's a game and you have to play with the rules.
Yes, yes, I agree. And actually, sometimes it's more a personal thing. I'm really tired of a lot, these call centers calling you every day with spam, and this is very normal. And actually, it's like whenever I'm working, I'm creating a startup and I'm creating a company, so I'm trying also to deal with all these regulations. But on the other hand, I feel like yes, they are very necessary because if things are not doing correctly, then maybe your phone number is in a bad database or I don't know
Mhm.
whatever, and maybe you have this spam call. So as a person, as a citizen, I see the point of really securing the data and protecting that you
Yeah.
are doing things correctly, right?
The European Union tries to balance innovation and protection.
Mm-hmm.
So in this balance is where everything lies. The problem is that we live in a global world and the data travels. So that's why they try to make this regulation that the intention is to set an example for the rest of the world and to protect UE citizens as much as possible. Uh, a few years ago, it seems that we were all going more or less in the same direction, but with new Trump administration, with the now things are changing. But the truth is that I think the fundamental rights are important and must be protected. But I also agree that we do not have to forget innovation, and we cannot stay behind. So there's this there is where everything lies when you have from the beginning someone that's helping you to comply, and then the game is not that difficult if you know the rules, but a lot of people are
Mm-hmm.
trying to play the game without knowing the rules, just going into the pool, and people are complaining because I have this regulation that makes me comply with this. Well, when you open a bar also you have a lot of regulations to open it, and it's fine. I mean, it's normal to have regulations so people don't get poisoned, so people don't get steal their data. So AI, that's something that could be potentially very harmful but also potentially very good for our society. It's compared to a industrial revolution. So it's important to be careful, and something I think a lot of people are not talking enough because it's ethics, the AI ethics. And for instance, when they clone the first ship, the the first reaction was, let's see where are the ethics of this. Now, because we are in a global world that's in a turbulent moment right now, I feel since 2020 we've been up and down. We are not taking this matter as serious. We are not
Mm-hmm.
stopping and thinking, okay, what's the ethics that we want to apply in AI? There's no philosophers talking about it. You don't have to be a philosopher to talk about it, but there's no philosophy being, well, a bit of philosophy, it is being written, but it's not a main concern about no one. Everyone's talking about innovation, about how restrictive this is, but no one's talking about AI is here, it's going to stay. How do we want to live with it? When I give conference, I always say AI, it's a it's a tool for humanity. If we do not respect this, it's very easy to fall into the trap to humanize AI, because we humans, we humanize everything. Animals, we see something with two dots and a smile and we think it's a face. We do this. So if we talk with an AI that it we think it feels because it talks like us, uh, we are gonna to humanize it. So it's important to talk about ethics.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I agree with you. Ethical aspect of AI is key nowadays, and in this podcast and in my website that I will do some spam is alejandroperespere.com. But if you go to my website to see my services and everything, you will see that in my case, I really take that into consideration, because I think this is an advantage actually, because it's even a competitive advantage, and it's maybe hard to understand. But if you do things correctly, you think about the humans behind working with AI, the humans interacting with AI, and also you are thinking about how to prevent risks in the future. Maybe in short term you are going slower, of course, but at the end of the day you are going beyond, because you are doing things correctly in the right direction. And I think this is very important. And actually yesterday I went into a conference. There was a very good designer talking about I don't know if you know the human design thinking, which is like a technique of thinking about the human perspective behind technology, for example. And they did a comparison between the last 20 years in the Standard and Poor's companies, and this is like an study, and they took the companies that really think about ethics and work with ethical and good design approach, and the ones that don't work with that. And if you see in long term, the ones working with design and ethics and good, let's say, legal framework, they go much beyond, because it's like little by little they go and they can continue, and the others maybe
Yeah,
at the beginning 1 year they explode, but then it's something also short term. Yeah.
yeah,
So
it's steady. It's if
yeah,
you're a toddler and you want to run and you go like this, you're probably gonna fall. But if you put one foot and then the other, it's less probable. It's the probability is you won't fall.
exactly. And actually, let's talk a bit about your vision of the future, because well, you said that you also work on media and cinema, and I know that you like a lot of science fiction. But how do you see it for real? Because I mean, there's like thousands of science fiction books and films talking about AI destroying the world and AI and robots and all that. But I guess that we are really far. Maybe we will never arrive until that. Let's hope. But how do you
Yeah.
see maybe the short future?
The problem is that we can imagine. Sometimes we think as humans we have to do it, and the thing is because we can do it doesn't mean we have to do it. And I think that's a thing. I think at some point we will be able to create this robot that's nearly human. That there's also this philosophy question that the conscience, if they can have conscience, they are, if they are like just pretend that they have conscience. Yes, I think we can arrive there, because if we can imagine, eventually we'll get there. But the thing is, because we can do it, it doesn't mean we have to do it. We see on TikTok a lot of AI video generated that with a voice talking about an invented story that it's what they call like brain rotting, and you just go down, and we are losing sometimes this connection, human connection, these stories that are purely emotional or human, that are not a prototype made in a mold. So I think that's important when, for example, there was a strike with the screenwriters in Los Angeles, in LA, or in Spain, when they want to, like, you cannot register a work that's only generated with AI. It has to be a human author. It's important to try to see that something, there's always something that we're going to put in this kind of soul that we have, not this soul we have, that it's important. We can like concentrate in create with like quantity over quality. But I think that that's not the way to go, and in the end people will get tired of this mass produced, and we will go back to more intimate, it's not the word because it's not in human creations.
Hmm.
And that happens also, we were talking about ethics. For example, if I have an internship either in the producer company or in the firm, the production company, the film, or in the firm, and I have this obligation towards him to teach him how to write an email, how to do this, how to call someone. And if I don't do this and I just use AI to replace human work without, I I want to say AI is convenient, and AI it's easy. I mean, it's logical to use it to perform better. I'm not saying it's, for me, it's a tool that complements
Mhm.
or line of work, and it's fine. I'm not against AI. I love AI. I love technology. It's not that when I say it, but if I don't teach this intern how to work in 20, 30 years, what kind of workforce we will have?
Mhm.
So that's important.
It's a very good point, and I agree with you from your perspective of thinking about AI. I usually say that AI is like a calculator, but instead of working, and I'm talking about, of course,
That's
generative
true.
AI, but instead of working with numbers, it works with texts. But it's like a calculator. But at the end of the day, a calculator by itself, it does not a work. It does nothing actually. So you need a person working with this, and this is the way where you can obtain the maximum value of AI, as far as I can see. But I also see, as you said, a lot of videos on TikTok, videos on YouTube, videos on mass media made by AI, and I'm also little by little thinking and seeing that there is more and more people concerned about that, and less people interested on watching these videos because they are not good as well. I mean, this is something
No,
interesting. They are bad
depends.
videos.
In general,
Yeah, and I can understand because, for example, when we all think about our favorite movie or our favorite book, it's our favorite one because maybe it was something that touched it ourselves, or something that, like, I mean, whatever, maybe it was something very new, very weird, very whatever. And I think this kind of innovation in art and media are impossible to be done directly by an AI because
it appeals
yeah.
to the human experience, and if you don't have a human experience, you cannot fabricate it. That's the
Mhm.
thing.
Yes, completely agree. And how do you see about the property? Because, as you said, in Spain, you cannot put, for example, that ChatGPT did a book. But actually, talking about books, for example, in Amazon, I have seen many often books directly done by AI. And I have seen a lot of podcasts and videos saying you can do this and this and this to create a book directly in 5 minutes and publish it on Amazon. So, what do you think about that?
Well, I think it's like industrial creating, like when you take a, a muffin from a supermarket, like it's with refined sugar and not very kind of dry. But then you have the work of an author behind that, and there's a quality that maybe the AI could replicate sometime. But for me, that's not the point. This is not like competition between the AI and us. For me, it's not like it's not like, well, the AI is going to be able to, of course it's super intelligent. It doesn't sleep,
Hmm.
and it has access to all the data, and of course it's going to beat me. Of course it's not, but that's not the point. We are not in competition. It's a tool that it's supposed to help us, and you want to take advantage of that and have a book on Amazon in 5 minutes. Okay, let's do that. But a career of an author is not just made by having 40 books that are probably a mix of other books, the not the writing itself, but like the themes and the bloodline and the story. So nowadays, people also look forward to an experience, to knowing the. So yes, we can do that. We can emulate that, but why emulate that? Just because it's convenient and a little bit shorter, when we have actual humans that do that. And in the Spanish intellectual property law, one of the in the exposition of motives says creating, that this law protects creation, and creating is the pure task from humans. Like creating is a task purely human, and
Hmm.
that's also something that, for example, in French law, they protect especially these works, because they call them œuvres de l'esprit, like works of the spirit, of the mind, of the self, um, because they consider that you left a little bit of yourself, of your experience, of your soul into these works. So we're protecting. That's why it's very important to understand that to AI, we don't apply only the new regulations that apply direct to AI. We apply all the spectrum of laws that already exist, civil, penal, everything. So that includes intellectual property that already stands and has stand from decades. So if we are saying on the basis that we are protecting the purely human task of creating the œuvre of l'esprit that are because we left our soul, why mix everything? Why take the AI and make it a competition against us?
Mm,
I don't know. I don't see it making any sense.
mm. Yes, I agree. I am thinking about maybe comparing us running and with a car, for example.
Yeah, it's,
It's
it's ridiculous.
it's ridiculous. A car is going to run much faster than us, but whenever we are thinking maybe about, I don't know, athleticism, for example, should we maybe run on cars? I mean, of course, it is another story, and of course, this is another kind of competition, running with cars, and that's it. But
And it's fine. It's great.
yes,
Everything that
it's
comes with
great.
technology is great, but I think we're not having as a society the right debate. That's what I think.
Exactly. But I guess the good point nowadays is like everything needs little by little changing, but it's changing little by little, but very quickly. And in some years, everything is changing. But I think that maybe in one decade, we'll have more things clear. And this is a message for the future. Nowadays, we can see it blurry a little bit, right? Like what's going to be the future in terms of ethics, in terms of market, in terms of companies. But I guess that little by little, we are seeing that AI is a very powerful tool, but it's still a tool. And it's
Yeah,
not like we are creating people. And
yeah,
with all that
yeah.
esprit, as you said in French, it's not, they are copying, let's say, text, and they're very good doing tasks, repetitive tasks, such as, I don't know, translating, maybe the basis of translation, because also translating with AI is a very good debate. But for
Yeah.
example, I don't know, for doing a draft, helping you with, I don't know, grammar, your text, making you a summary of a book. That
For,
works really well. But this is like a supporter, like a trainee that you have next to you.
mm,
That it's not
yeah,
going to change your role.
yeah,
Yeah.
because it seems like we want to play being gods or something like that. It's
Hmm.
also the this obsession we have nowadays to be the most productive, no matter the cost. And here there's a social cost, but there's also a quality cost. Not because AI is not going to do a fine work; it's going to do it, but there's something there that the humans that we put in that no machine can, or even if she could, that wouldn't be the point
Hmm.
because we
Yes.
live in a
I.
human world and and the laws protect us, and we are not going to create something to replace us. That would be so stupid.
Mhm. I agree. I agree. Okay, Neus. I think we have talked about many different stuff, but I want you to say something like for closing a little bit this episode. And at the end, I usually ask my guests in the podcast if you could give advices to maybe a little version of yourself, maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago, or someone maybe starting a career on your domain or thinking to start a career on that. So, can you give him or her an advice?
Well, yes, if thinking like that, thinking if I could give myself an advice, and I think that can apply to a lot of people, I would say to be patient in every step. Don't do not want to rush in every step. It's it's a bit closer to your end goal, and do not despair. And also, and the most important one would be have an end goal. That's true, but you have to enjoy your days. If your days look like something that doesn't mean there's no effort in the days, that some days are gonna be awful. That's just life. But I mean, like, if for your end goal your life's going to be missing. You are going to be miserable. Maybe that's not the end goal you want. So and trust that everything will fall into place, because you cannot take decisions with information you do not yet have. When I, for example, when I studied the intellectual property masters, I knew I wanted to be in entertainment and media, and everybody was like, just do that, and expanded in technology and AI. And now it proves that it makes sense that both are together, and the other thing was just a bit crazy. So trust your instincts, but also don't despair in the process, because you don't have all the information of your life.
Hmm.
And you understand only your life when you look back, but cannot see the future. So be
Hmm.
patient, work towards what you want, but don't forget that your days have to be enjoyable. I think that would be my advice.
I think it's a very good advice, and I have to confess that most of you are saying more or less the same. Like, being patient, focus on your little by little going your path, and also, let's say, enjoy this path. I think this is what you most of you are saying. So it's a good advice as far as I am seeing from these episodes. So Neus, we are almost ending. So at the end, I ask two questions to my guests. So the first one is, how do you like coffee? Because this is the A Coffee podcast, and coffee is very relevant here in this podcast. And the other one is, how can audience connect with you? Ask you maybe for more information about your what you do at work or whatever.
Okay, so I have two types of coffee. Of favorite coffee depends on the time of the year. So
Mm-hmm.
most of the year, I like foam milk with an espresso and then cinnamon on top.
Mm-hmm.
But in summer, the same drink with ice or a typical latte, because in summer in Spain it's a must. You drink your coffee with ice in the summer.
Mm. Yeah, I agree. I agree. And how can the audience connect with you?
You can connect with me by LinkedIn. My name is Neus Alcolea. That will be, I think, written on this podcast.
Yeah.
Uh, Also, I'm at Loira Abogados. It's a firm that you can also look up and write me at my email. That is neus.alcolea@loira.com. And also, they can contact me if it's for media entertainment purposes and cinema at my filming company that's called Escarlata Studios. So that's it. That's me. And anything you can need. Well,
Mm-hmm. I will put all the links on the description of the episode, so don't worry for noting everything nowadays. If you want to come back to the episode, you will have them all. So thank you very much. It was a pleasure having you here. I also want to say a big thank you and greetings to Andrea, that is a friend in common that met us, and I think maybe she's going to be listening to this episode. So hello, Andrea, and a big hug to you. Okay, so thank you very much to Neus, and also that you are watching until the end. And let's see you next time.
bye.